and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And it's definitely nice to have everybody back for the vote. Makes it a lot easier, I think, for Jason. Jamie, you have anything?
I don't.
Okay, Todd.
Just a shout out to Heather and Colleen and Julie on the Mitchell County Strong. Wow, it's been amazing what them ladies have done. So it's just a huge shot in the arm to the economy and everything with the way it is and the local businesses. So just very, very pleased and happy that those ladies have done what they've done. So
That's definitely true. Thanks. Matt?
No.
Andrew?
Just a number of people asking questions about 8th Street, but I know Jason's going to talk about it later.
Okay, thanks. Tony?
I just want to say thank you to the folks that put on that Hilltop Parade yesterday. That was a good deal, and they really appreciated it.
That good turnout for that, I hear.
They did.
That's good. Well, thank you. Anything else? Okay, Lee?
No, I don't have it.
Okay. I don't have anything. Katie?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Raby, we're gonna turn it over to you.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I get the first thing on here is a COVID-19 update, and really kind of the most of what we need to talk about is underneath here. So there's really not much to talk about besides where, since we can work more and more outside, kind of our phasing plan of how we had employees structured is slowly winding down. So the other thing we've been doing is just tabulating all the costs of doing some of those different things, probably just like your businesses are doing, or the PPE or whatever, and making sure that we have that accounted for just in case there's ever some funding coming down from whomever. Currently, and we'll look at some of those things, but there's not much updates on, we're working on kind of what does this look like to our utilities. We're kind of in that lower bill cycle anyway, so there's just not a lot of change, and it's so early on. I mean, we just, sent out kind of that first round of bills after the, when it all kind of hit. So there's really not a lot to see just yet. That's anything shocking. Chautauqua pool opening, that's something that Lynn and I have been working on along with Courtney Murrow. It's obviously a big topic of conversation in our community and really across the state, probably across the country, kind of been the big deal. And really we're just trying to look at it on a local basis. Sometimes you get almost too clouded, look and see what everybody else is doing. We're just kind of looking to see what does the guidelines say, and basically phase 2, we feel comfortable trying to train the lifeguards that need to be trained. Obviously, we're a big training resource for a lot of the other local pools, so they rely on us to do that. We have enough veteran guards probably to get us by, because they did extend the certification 120 days, so there really won't be any issues there for our veteran guards. But really just trying to get in order of what that looks like, what kind of food we would serve, and kind of the number limitations. So phase 3 is when we would feel comfortable trying to open the pool, and that would be no earlier than June 1st. That's kind of what they're saying. And that's, again, of course, if we can get enough staff and guards, which so far looks pretty good. We have sent a letter out to all the guards just seeing what their status was for the summer. Again, we'd really be limiting it to that 90 numbers. So we're going to work on kind of a time block plan, so yeah, at least for this summer, probably gonna be, at least for the beginning, it's gonna be, be on the days where you go there from 1 to stay, hang out there till 7. It's probably going to look a little different to kind of monitor that. So we'll figure that out. The other thing we've got to figure out, we've figured out we got a pretty good disinfection plan of how we want to do that. We've got some really good product on hand, but also coming. That's hospital grade. So basically, we could, we'll do the little Mr. Sprayer thing, be able to spray down the bathrooms before we open, and that really is going to have some staying power. If people touch it for a couple hours, so then maybe if we had a midday break, then we would just go and spray those bathrooms down again.
Are you looking at something like if you have large crowds that people can only stay like a couple hours, and then you rotate them out?
Yes, so that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, exactly. So it might be something, you're there from 1 to 3, and then we close for an hour, which gives us time to disinfect everything again, and you open it back up, and you got to check all back in. So we're going to announce that and try to get that out so people know. Again, I think everybody's used to the fact it's just a different kind of summer, and hopefully people can appreciate the fact that we at least are trying to open our pool. A lot of communities just closed, so, does anybody have any questions about that?
Would there be a minimum amount of days that you would look at potentially keep, like, obviously right now on June 1st is the recommendation that we're looking at, but if things change and say that got moved back to the 15th,
Yeah.
is there a minimum number of open days that you would say if it goes below this, we're not going to do it?
Yeah, I think it's gonna get tough just from kids trying to get other jobs and everything else, trying to get them to hold on. I would say much past July 1st, it's gonna get tougher and tougher by the day. So the good thing is we're gonna have everybody trained, hopefully we can go to phase 2, that date, again, you bring a good point, Andrew, those dates are fluid. I think that's what everybody's gotta understand. But, hopefully that'll get that done. So maybe phase 2 takes a little bit longer, at least we'll have that done. So we could, phase 3 happens the next day, we could technically almost open it that next day. We'll have to have it filled up. And we want to fill it up, it's a little bit of an expense, but just to run the pumps and run everything, I think it's good for it to sit there and run and operate for a little bit. But yeah, I don't have a hard and fast date, but that would be in my head, just, thinking you get much past that 1st of July, mid-July, really the bigger issue you run up against is staffing. And I hope that's what people understand. It's not, I can't go run the pool, and neither can you. So it takes a good solid 10 guards plus, probably 5 or 6 additional concession staff and, the check-in person and that kind of stuff. So that's really going to be the limiting factor. So anybody else have questions on that?
I have questions about the health aspects of it. Is like the virus, is that something that's killed by the pool water, or is it
Yep.
waterborne?
Yeah, so chlorine does kill it.
And what about like the governor's guidance for social distancing and the way we get people in there?
Yep. So in those phases, it allows you to congregate in those areas, and social distancing is recommended, but it's also knows that there's going to be incidental contact. So it really treats them as groups. So they really want the groups to be social distance from each other. So yeah, we'll follow all that stuff. So yeah, if it's not possible, then that's not what's going to happen. But based on how everything's getting interpreted right now, we should be able to do it and do it the way that we're supposed to. So
essentially, I think if we feel like we can safely open following the governor's executive order and then following the guidelines for cleaning, and then they're going to have a lot of guidelines for concessions coming out too. I think as long as we follow those, and our county health officers okay with it, then I think we're okay. We talked about this before the meeting a little bit, but a lot of those closings that you hear are not health related at this point; they're budget related.
yeah, budget and staffing, I would say. So yeah, and just let me know if you have questions or concerns. Obviously, we'll be meeting again before we would still being able to open. So just like you guys know, in your own industries, things get a lot clearer by the day. So we'll know a lot more at that point. Moving on to 8th Street. Yeah, everything's going pretty good with that. Basically, it took us about I'd say a day or so longer than we were hoping for, primarily because we ran into an issue right there, transition between Poplar but right there at Poplar. So basically, and I may have alluded to this when we were talking about it a month or two ago when we were approving it, but the road definitely is different between those two. We just didn't think to that extreme. There probably wasn't enough potholing done by the company. But basically, that was an old county type road probably coming to town, who knows how many decades and decades ago. But basically from Poplar on, it was a full depth asphalt street. So they must have gone through and tore it all up. And the rest of it was just kind of a asphalt on the shoulders and then, some chip seal over the top, over the decades. And so, a lot of good depth out on the outer part of the lane, but not so much in the inner part of the lane. So they did about, 100-foot stretch there. And we were all like, wait a minute, this isn't going to go well. So we kind of had to rethink it a little bit. So that's kind of what pushed us over the weekend there on not intentionally. But basically what we then decided was we really wanted to we weren't going to be able to get the crown that we wanted from there on in necessarily, but at least we could get the crown that was there flatter. And I think you'll notice that, I've driven it probably a dozen times now, I'm just trying to assess it. And you'll notice it's still probably leaning a little bit more than you want, but it's not, it's not doing kind of a double crown, if that makes sense. So we just kind of had them take it from the gutter, lay it down and grind into it about 2 inches, and then come back and catch that grind and come back, and say that did it 4 times, and I think it turned out really good. So we'll put a double chip seal all the way through that, all the way basically to 24. So reverse it 24, and that'll probably happen. I'm guessing with the rain, probably Monday, that type of thing. But it'll probably, I'm guessing, I didn't talk to Cliff today, but I think it'll be opened up fully starting tomorrow. But they kind of had to put we took some of that coal patch that we've had made, we stuck that in that 100 to 200 foot section. So I needed just time to pack down and sit there for a second. So that's why it's got that closure right in the middle. But hopefully if you've driven it, I mean, I've been super happy. There's a few little spots, but again, considering the money we paid and what it's turning out like, it's turned out really, really nice. So I took a video before driving it, kind of had my phone kind of on the steering wheel, and just to catch the bouncing. And so I'm really looking forward to, because that's what people forget pretty quick. But if you drive it, I think it's going to be a pretty good deal. So we'll get the chip seal done, and we learned a lot. I think it went overall pretty smooth, but you still learn some things on these things. This is kind of they haven't done too many into town type of thing like that, and so I think we both learned something. But in the end, it turned out really good. We got about 300 tons of coal mix made for us, so that was kind of free of charge, just because we didn't get to do those last few blocks of the full planes. We kind of traded some stuff there, and then we're buying the next 300 tons. We, instead of just letting it be millings, we wanted it to be coal mix too, since we had such a hard time getting that. So we're getting it about, like I shared that email, about half the normal cost. So we're really happy. If you've seen the pile sitting out there, it's going to help us a lot. I mean, it's basically what we needed for West Main plus some other roads, and so it's a really good deal for us. So anybody else have any questions on that? Or yeah, Andrew?
There's a couple of utility covers that have concrete where you can see they have to obviously been put in. Are we going to be lowering those, or are we simply going to sort of?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is. I think we had one of those there, so we're gonna have to deal with that. I'm not sure exactly what. They ground on it for quite a while, so that might be one blemish in the whole thing for a little bit, but they'll figure it out. That was the one surprise. We kind of hoped there wouldn't be anything like that. They kind of moved stuff and done stuff, but that must have been there a long time ago. We just didn't know about it. So yeah, there is that one sitting there, but those guys are good. They'll get it figured out. So, health insurance update, that's being worked on. The renewal, we got kind of the initial renewal. It's super nasty ugly. It's exactly what the guy that we hired said it was probably going to be. So it was about 23% increase, which is just bad. So we're going to be working on some stuff. He's got some, just some not minor, but some changes, keeping the same framework that he thinks he can get it down to at least 10% increase, and then we can still talk about it from there. Obviously, still looking at the partial self-funded. So he's working on it pretty hard, but we talked about it again this week. So it's kind of what we thought it would be, but we're gonna have to do some continue looking. Thankfully we're tackling this thing early enough. We can do some work on that. Sales tax, I think you saw that in your packet, but the sales tax report looked pretty solid. Again, it's kind of a delayed effect. We don't really know the full extent of what that's going to look like. Statewide, that March was really down about, the comp use was up because of all the internet sales, but the other sales tax was down. For us, as you can see, we had one of our better Marches, or April, but that March time period is kind of a delay. But across the state, it ended up being about a 5% decrease, but obviously the next month is when we're going to see kind of that real impact to see what's that doing to us compared to some of the big retail centers, like your Salinas or Manhattans or those types of things. So I think it's going to be painful stories for both, but definitely, hopefully, two different stories, where we might not be so bad. For the year, year to date, we're up 15%. So, hadn't been for coronavirus, we were on our road to recovery finally. I mean? Like, I felt like we were back to almost 2015 terms, but we'll take the challenge head on and see what it is. So we'll know more on that. Kind of what that next wave looks like here in about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks is when we'll get that next report for us. Elm Street truck route. So again, from our last meeting, not that we want you to forget about this, but we have need to do a little bit more reassessment on that. We do have one truck driver that's on that route, and its driveway is just only oriented to go north. So it's going to take a little bit of thinking and work to figure that out, but we had most of that operations really focusing on 8th Street here the last 2 weeks, so we haven't got anything tackled on that. Water treatment plant update, USDA is working on that. I touched base with the gal in Topeka that's supposed to be working on that again. Really said, hey, we don't want to lose momentum here. Plus, rates are really low again. So she acted like today, I think that they're going to work on it right now, and try to get something done. So hopefully with everybody kind of getting used to where this normal is, that we can get some things going forward with that again. A TTHM update, again, that was in your packet. That was only the first week. That's all I've got right now, but it's looking really good. Last quarter of last year, the same quarter is where we kind of got nailed and got a little bit off pace. We kind of had some just over 80 averages, and this should get us, back hopefully in the low 70s again, really give us a lot of room to breathe. So that's a really positive thing. Obviously, the lake's back on as well. And then the last part of my update, again, related to COVID, but basically because it was a kind of an emergency need, but we entered into just a real simple agreement with the county for them to be able to use a little portion of the North Campus Administration Building kind of as a temporary holding, screening type unit for them. They had, I think that about 2 weeks ago, they had somebody from out of county or somebody, I can't remember exactly what the scenario was, but they were too nervous to want to put them. He had traveled, that's what it was. So they didn't want to put them in the general population just yet. So they were able to do some things. So we kind of created they stayed there for 2 days basically, and then moved them over once they got some I think some testing or something done.
Once it was negative,
Yeah, then they moved them over. So anyways, I don't see it being used a lot, but again, it's just unprecedented times, kind of called for some unprecedented things. So we just kind of wanted some liability protection and them to pay for some lights and water if they use it, but I don't think they've used it since, and I don't anticipate them any cost to make sure something works is all on them. I mean, it's just kind of one of those deals. So if you have questions, you can ask me about it later, but that's what it is. All right.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank you,
long-winded
Jason.
this.
Next is Heather with the Economic Development Director's report.
Okay. Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, maybe you can see me. Nope. All right. Okay. So the SBA loans, it's kind of crazy, but the SBA loans that the EIDL loans that people applied for, a lot of them aren't getting any information, whether they were approved or not approved, but they will get money in their bank account with no paperwork, no nothing. So people are happy and also a little nervous. So I've answered a lot of questions about that. The payroll protection program, those have also come through pretty heavily. So those numbers, I can't tell you specifically for the county, but I can tell you for the state that we did very well. We were pretty successful in applying for those. There was a second round of those PPP loans that then allowed for ag and also for self-employed individuals. So people have been still applying for that. It's been kind of an interesting process, but those are forgivable if they're used 75% for payroll. So hopefully that will help get some of our people back to work. So that's a good thing. For the Mitchell County Strong, I'll just give you some numbers here in case you're curious. We have generated $9,420 in gift certificate sales or gift card sales. Our auction that we held a couple weeks ago was pretty successful. It still shows on our site that it was a little over $34,000, but actually some items sold after the auction was closed, and we're still counting that towards auction numbers. So it's actually over 52,000, which we were pretty thrilled with. Grocery applications, we filled, to this point, we filled 53 grocery applications, and that equals about $3,600. We're filling every application that we receive. We just haven't received a lot of applications. We thought maybe that was just because of us, but we did actually talk to Cliff today, or Pastor Cliff this week, with the Ministerial Alliance, and they also have not had a lot of applications. So kind of like what Jason was talking about with the connections, we just haven't seen that a lot yet. So we imagine that's still coming. We will continue to run that program for a little bit. And then donations just back to the chamber and back to the Solomon Valley Disaster Relief Fund are a little over 27,000. So, you know, all in all, it's 135, $38,000 that's been floating around the community through the Mitchell County Strong program. So we're pretty happy with those numbers. We're going to continue to keep that open. We had talked about closing the site down, at least for the gift card sales, but since all businesses aren't able to open yet, we went ahead and kept that going. We'll try and do a couple more things here this week and next week to keep that going until all the businesses are able to open that want to. So that's kind of where we are. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
If the match isn't fully utilized, like you're saying, there's a lot of people who have, obviously, you haven't had a lot of interest in the grocery program per se. If you have excess funds at matching, where is that going to end up?
That's a good question. Okay, so what we did when we created that Solomon Valley Disaster Relief Fund, first of all, we didn't make it COVID related. So it is just a disaster relief fund. So the nice part about that is that it will sit in the community foundation, or it can sit in the community foundation, not only for now, but in the future. But we'd really like to be able to give as much away now as we can. So what we decided to do was survey all of our nonprofits. So we gathered every nonprofit that's ever asked us for money, and then Julia at the Chamber has a really good listserv of nonprofits in the area. We created a pretty simple survey. We kept it down to 10 questions, but it was kind of, hey, what's going on? Did you have to cancel a fundraiser? Are you doing things that are specific to COVID? Are you changing your operations because of COVID? Are you closed? And then hopefully we'll have a better idea of what they're doing now. And then what we're hoping to do is maybe start out with some mini grants. We don't really know the exact dollar on that now, because we're hoping the survey will tell us a little bit more, whether they're looking for, $5,000 or $50,000. So, and then what we'll do is then go back out, we think, with some little mini grants that we'll be able to do through that. Our nonprofits we're hoping are the ones that are getting hit, because we're not. We're also looking at doing some prescription help, just a little tiny help. And we'd like to do a couple more things like that wouldn't actually go through us, but would actually go through other nonprofits. So those are a few ideas. We're just surprised that we haven't been hit. We figured we would be out of money very quickly, and it just isn't happening. So we're not sure.
It'll probably happen after time, like you thought. Any other questions for Heather? Okay, thank you, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Was Dave going to give us a report, or we're going to?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Moving on, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda in its entirety.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Adolph that we approve the consent agenda in its entirety. For a second. Second by Councilman Meyer. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Moving on through the agenda this evening, we'll go to formal actions with the cop track system purchase for the police department.
Anybody have any questions on that at all? The base is kind of part two of what we bought at the end of the last year. We got 3 cars outfitted, and this will do the remaining 3 cars. And it's really, first of all, it needs to be updated. I think it's been 7 or 8 years since we put the original systems in. So this is way more of a evidence, has a way better evidence portal, locker, kind of automated, tracking and, keeping them record retention and all that kind of stuff. So that's a way better process. But also it gives us some management tools. We can see, where they've been patrolling and monitor kind of some of those activities as well. So it's good for coaching, and also just to kind of determine if something happens. I had this in the previous community, and someplace burned down. We didn't see it, but we could know when the officer went by and when it happened and when they found it. So we could kind of pinpoint a time bracket. So that would help some of those, if you have burglaries or whatever, we could say, hey, we drove by there at 1 o'clock in the morning, so we know it was somewhere between 1 and whatever. So it's a good deal. I mean, it's an expense, but it's kind of just the cost of running a good department. I think it's really good for kind of like what the body cams have done. It's been good for the officer, but also for the individual that we're interacting with. So it's kind of the same thing with these. So
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Graybon that we approve the cop track system purchase. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Audi. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same.
And like I noticed in the packet, that is gonna replace we won't be purchasing a car this year, so that's just, we felt the last 2 years, it's been really important just to get some of that equipment updated, so.
Been doing a good job of managing their replacement.
Yeah.
Got to be commended for that, considering what goes on in the community. Next item on the agenda is an infrared camera purchase for the electric department.
Yeah, and again, in the packet, it was a little bit vague, we were trying to scramble to get this done, this was again, one of those things that was highlighted by the goofy times that we're in right now. But about a month ago, I would say we were having some power surge issues. I know it was affecting Jamie, up there, and I can't remember where else, but it's just something goofy going on. Of course, we couldn't find it. We ended up finding it, but we didn't have the infrared camera we usually do. So we usually been borrowing it from KMEA, probably about 60 days at a shot, and we give it back, and then they, let somebody else use it, then we use it again. We really use it to find some hot spots. We kind of kept it there for a while. So we vetted our system, but it's also really nice when you're looking for those needles in the haystack. And it was stuck in Kansas City. Both of them were. They have. So we kind of, council's been interested in the last 2 years, and so it's kind of really my fault to do that, but we didn't ever buy one. But sometimes those things show you why you should probably own something like that. So we had bought one back in '94, and it's probably in 3 suitcases. It's just like your computers and everything else. I mean, it used to be huge and probably cost $20-something thousand to purchase. So technology's gotten better and it's gotten cheaper. So basically, what we have before you is kind of one similar to what we've been using. That a little better, newer than what we've been using, but it looks something like this. Big handheld unit. And again, we've had good luck with it. But the one that they're actually recommending to purchase, it's about $100 more. But I'll give you why they like it better. There you go. Yep, it's that 96, 93, so it's about 170 or $83 more. But the reason why they like that is it's going to look like this one right here. Hopefully you can see that okay. So it's kind of more of a unit like this, so that way they can tilt the camera part, but they got a bigger screen. And it's, sometimes they fight that reflection so bad when they're outside. So they thought that this one was going to be more probably what, if they're going to spend that kind of money, spend the extra $180 and get one, it's going to be a little bit more capable. And they've heard some pretty good reviews about it. So again, I think this tool is invaluable, especially as counseling has been kind of a goal in my own of making sure we have as minimal power outages that we have. We had a brief one the other day, but
Yesterday.
yeah. Even switches have guts, and sometimes things get bumped. So that's what happens there. But yeah, this really helps us in that needle and haystack type situations. And I would assume something like this would have an easy 10-year lifespan. That would be no sweat on that. So I guess the motion, if there would be one, would be to purchase the TIX 501 Fluke, yep, from Stannion Wholesale Electric. We did check with our local vendor here. I think Becker Supply is one of them, and they just don't carry a line right now that they wanted to put in for. So, but we do a lot of business with Stannion for the amount of $96, $93, $51, and that would get paid for by the electric fund.
That's the super image quality, right? Is what it said on it.
That would be
That's better to remember than the whatever.
No, it's really the TIX 501. The TIX 501.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Audi that we approve the TIX 501 infrared camera, and seconded by Councilman Graybon. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
I know it saved Todd's bacon once.
Yep.
I would have saved a lot more than $9,600.
Yep.
Yep.
The high school, saying high school bacon in the
Oh,
hospitals. Yeah.
Stuff like that specialized tooling that we're carrying around a lot. Do we carry any kind of insurance on that?
Yeah, everything's covered under inland marine.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So that will, That'll be listed out specifically.
Cool.
Yep.
Good. It'd be a nice addition.
Because it is nice.
Cool.
Yeah. It'll be good.
2 years ago, we got all excited about wanting to buy one.
I know, I should have pulled the trigger then, but
Well,
I think we'd have a road, I should get stuck in Kansas City, you know?
Can't beat free.
Yeah.
So, okay, next item on the agenda is the fairground land purchase agreement. Jason has some things you want to cover on that.
So, with everything going on, it's kind of been put on the back burner, but again, this is something we've been working on for probably better part of a year. Get the right screen here. So I put that in your revised packet. Again, it's for that surveyed boundary, I think it was roughly 30 acres. Again, we don't have it surveyed yet. But I wasn't gonna spend the money to do it until I knew that it was gonna go through, so we'll get that done. But it includes the property that would help the cemetery, all the ball diamonds, and the place where the water tower is, that green area where they play soccer and flag football, basically all that stuff that we've already put a lot of investment in over the years, and I think people want to put more into, but it's kind of locked in when we probably shouldn't. So I think the price that we've been working on in the last 3 or 4 months was that $250,000 paid over a 5-year period. The one change you'll see in here is, you know, they're going to borrow money from a bank, so they wanted to split the interest cost. So I put saying, hey, here's the amortization that we'll pay. So basically, it adds another $10,000 worth of cost to it. But again, we're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of patients over a lot of period of time trying to get this thing across home plate. So I think they're on board from yesterday, from whatever Monday they had their meeting. So I wanted to make sure you guys were on board, so we could order everything and try to close it by July 1st. So we pay $50,000 up front and then one payment each year.
So over total of 4
It'll
payments.
be 5 years, yeah, 4 years, yeah, 4 payments, so it'll be 5 payments, yeah, sorry, 4-year period, yeah.
So they're borrowing money, and because they're borrowing money, we're paying interest?
Well, because we asked for a term to pay it over.
How far north is the north property line then?
Yeah.
Careful, be repainting it.
You mean they repainted it?
Yeah.
We just paid them.
I promise they got the lines in.
Yeah. Yeah, at least they got all the way down too. That was cool. Sorry. Get her in here.
There's my house.
Yeah. All right, so it'll kind of follow the hand, but basically it's gonna, here's a corner, if you see it up there, yeah, so it's gonna go there, it's gonna follow kind of right along here. And the property line is actually on the north side of this road, or this little street here, as best as we can tell, so it goes right along
The
there.
high school parking lot there, that little.
That grassy part.
Yeah, exactly, between that little street and the grassy part is the kind of the assumed property line that's existing, so we'll find that, that's what we'll put on there. Comes right down here, down this tree line, and then basically this corner, we have that big transformer sitting over there, and then straight up to this corner here. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
straight, and then come over here, yes, and like that, sorry. Confusing. So to this transformer, over this corner here, we'll make a corner, come down here to capture this, because this is the part that we want for the cemetery. Hold on here.
Is there an existing lease right now with a farmer on that one corner?
Nope, they've got that nullified.
I'll just double
Yeah,
check.
just in anticipation of this, so,
Okay.
yeah,
And the school owned this, the last softball field to the north of that line then?
yes, that field one, that's always been theirs.
we
Yeah.
maintain it, but they
Yeah,
Just give it.
Things usually in pretty rough shape.
yeah.
Has potential.
Yeah, it's been better. I actually kind of like using it. Um, I'm gonna try to draw this in. Raise it that way. Okay, so basically it's gonna be, yeah, there it is. Yeah. Sort of like that, you know. Get rid of the pencil.
Sure, tie everything in a lot better,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
for the future.
Okay, here we go. Finally.
It's about 28.
Yeah, I've been done it a million different times. It comes in 20, 27, 29. Just depends on what we do, but
The access road, that's gonna be on our property, or is that still gonna be the fair boards?
Coming up by the cemetery.
I don't
Coming
know
up on
that,
the
but I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
Just wondering.
Yeah, it probably won't, we'll probably actually just, for the most part, remove a lot of it, because a lot of that will be internal into the cemetery. The roads will be, and we really won't need any access on that backside, you know, maybe unless it's a parking lot. Talked about that for that field tucked up in there, but
Well, when kids play sports.
what we're gonna do is basically, we're gonna go out there and kind of walk it off. And with the fair guys to make sure we're all on the same page of where it's gonna be.
So what we would do if we did ever decide to do like a parking lot or a field back in there is we would just go to them and request an access easement, and then I'm sure they would ask us to maintain it at that point. But we're pretty much doing that anyway.
That'd be nice eventually to have a parking lot back on that side.
Yeah.
Students down there.
Yeah, it kind of depends, you know.
See what works out one time.
Yeah.
Revamp the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, we got that plan all developed, so I mean, it does call for a little parking lot back there, just kind of, you know, for a tournament, you probably wouldn't want one, but you always close it. You know, for Lions Club type games where you just got one game there at night, it'd be nice to have a parking lot just for that field, but if you're gonna host a tournament there, you try to limit as many entry points as you can. But yeah, I guess, you know, it is a chunk of change, but I think it rectifies a major issue that's been haunting everybody for, what, 30 plus years.
Any other questions? No other question, entertain a motion to approve the fairground land purchase.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Evop, we approve the fairground land purchase agreement. Have a second?
I'll
Second by
second.
Councilman Meyer. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, entertain a motion for adjournment. Been moved by Councilman McMillan that we adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Audi. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We stand adjourned. We'll go into the work session. Katie, anything at this time?
No, nothing, thank you.
Jason?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Else, the treasurer's report?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, the treasury report is on your packet, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but, you know, again, thanks to some good foresight and planning, you know, we're pretty healthy, with whatever kind of revenue situations are gonna be come upon us, you know, again, the ones that have kind of given us trouble over the years, or not trouble, but have always been tougher, the water sewer fund, again, sewer fund is doing better, you need to roll up, even the water fund is, you know, we've been trying to be more efficient with staff in there and really with both those funds. That's helped that without having to touch the rates. You know, we probably know when was last time, 2015, 2014 that we touched the rates. So it's been a little while. The electric funds doing really healthy. CIP, you know, again, we're kind of using that. So that's fluctuating up and down. Our debt again continued to move down. So, you know, the total we're we're down about, $2 million here the last 3 or 4 years. So 3.5 years. So that's a positive thing. Because we kind of anticipate the big water plant coming on. But really don't have too many concerns besides, again, just keeping an eyeball on that water fund. But hopefully over the time we get this water plant built and the rural water districts come on, we'll continue to try to keep that on a road to be a little bit healthier over time. But, everybody looking at that, anybody have any questions or concerns or again, kind of seeing the fund trend line, and this orange line is really just a rolling average. So that kind of helps you understand that. That's a 4-quarter rolling average, and same with this one. This one's been shown. This is the CIP fund, just so you can kind of see it's just kind of a rocky deal depending on we do have a few items that escaping me, but things we have to pay. It's like bond issues, etc. But I can't think of the term for that, but the funds are tied down basically, so those do come out. But overall, I feel like everything's going the right way, and I'm happy with it. So
It's a good job with you and Mandy helping manage our money, because I come on board and always down there with not much money.
yeah,
So it's nice to see that.
Yeah.
Or any money.
Yeah. Well, this is in a good position. Right now we're trying that RFP for the solar, and that's just getting a ton of activity. I almost regret putting it out there right now, but it's getting tons of activity. So it'll be interesting to see what the economics of that, first of all, but also, we're in a really good position to make something like that happen. So, but anyways, so.
Okay. We'll move on to the Mitchell County Rural Water District number 1 contract.
Alrighty. So basically, we're just trying to figure out. Mitchell Rural Water 1, we'll kind of talk about it both at the same time. So 1 and 3 might as well. It's very similar contracts. We're talking to them at the same time. Mitchell Water 1 is currently actually expired. I mean, we're kind of in a month-to-month situation right now, which is fine. So we kind of figured we're going to be talking to them both at the same time. So we kind of need to make sure we're both on the same page with them. And so really what we need to talk about, is with 1 and 3 is a little bit about minimums. What kind of minimum water purchase we want them to at least have to buy from us. We want to talk about obviously a rate per 1,000, and then we want to talk about, was there a term in here too, Katie, I can't remember that we need to talk about, or
Well, I've got
10 years.
10 years because that's what our previous.
Yeah. So it'd be a 10-year, but go to a year on.
And then
Yes.
so we don't have this issue where it expires on crud.
Yeah.
So 10-year, and then if everybody's happy, we'll just go year to year.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're trying to look at the economics of that. What does that look like? Obviously, right now we have this PCA thing. We've talked about getting rid of that and kind of just going to a per 1,000 gallons type charge, because it ends up being a pretty flat thing. It's almost just more annoying to explain. But I know when we talked about that a year ago, it kind of people got a little bit concerned. It sounds like we're raising water rates, because we technically are, but PCA goes away, so it ends up being the same thing. But whether we want to do that with this, charge them a PCA per se, or just charge them a flat rate total, just knowing that we're trying to get to that kind of more of a flat annual charge, so there isn't a lot of questions. We just have a lot of customers that like to figure their bill, and I appreciate that, but of course our bill isn't necessarily the most transparent, not the right word, but it's kind of tough to figure out, well, exactly how is this being calculated per 1,000, because that PCA is just kind of hidden in there. It's kind of built into it, and we've got it more on a rolling average now, because I got so sick of dealing with it, and I felt like the language allowed me to kind of put it on a rolling average. That helps smooth it out, but it's still difficult to explain to me. If it was like, oh, it's 465, 1,000, you know what I mean? Like that's going to be, or 560, whatever it ended up being. That's basically what it's been over the last 5 years.
Yeah, so just so you guys are aware, the current Rural Water 1, their contract says they pay $1.93 plus PCA, so
it ends up being about 365.
So they're paying,
amount,
yeah. So it's really not anywhere close to what the number actually is in that contract, but.
Yeah. So anyways, and again, this is kind of the negotiation process. Again, we have our non-production and our water plant costs. That's really what we want to pass on or make sure that we're accounting for to those. You know, our own systems obviously is borne by our own customers. But the water plant costs, the non-production costs, that'd be like debt, you know, and trying to project what future debt's going to be like with that new water plant. Kind of what does that look like for them? And I think with both of them, we probably want to put something in here about that new water plant coming online, that when that does, we're going to need to relook at this, obviously trying to keep it as, you know, which is our own goal, as minimal impact as we can. So it's kind of the story of, you know, two different stories, but we kind of wanted to put something together so that we could go to them, because it's probably going to be a little bit of a negotiation type thing, and say, here's kind of what we were thinking. You know, it's, you know, whether it's PCA list or not, but it's roughly $365 total per thousand, you know, minimum gallon purchase of X gallons.
So at year 6, if we had you know, things change and our cost of production goes up, that's going to be built in there, that'll go up with our
Right,
cost
and
of production.
also they are contracting that if you guys raise rates, they're okay with that. That's part of it too.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're locking yourself in for 10 years. It's just, what is that starting number?
At some time when we finally get our water plants, okay,
Yeah.
they will be telling us what our water rates is gonna be, is that correct?
For the most part, yeah. Yep.
I mean,
It'll be pretty locked in.
we are kind of
Yep.
at the
Correct.
lending institutions.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, they're going to assume that there's a cost per user. The average water bill is $50, you know, which I can't remember what exactly how it works out to, but you know, that's kind of their assumption. So there will be some adjustment, but it's not going to be dramatic. You know, we've already kind of looked at that ourselves. You know, I mean, it'll be something, but you know, it'd be a magnitude of dimes and not dollars, really. You know, per 1,000 gallons, what we can kind of tell. So.
I'd be supportive of simplifying the bill and moving away from the PCA and just going to a flat rate. I think I understand the reason we had it in the past, but I think we've gotten to a point where it just makes more sense to let's just streamline it and not have that fluctuating number there.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Kind of makes it simpler for Andy, everybody else on the other end.
Well, yeah, and then to explain it.
Yeah, and that's probably the most important piece. I kind of needed your guidance on, you know, the minimum that we'll have to kind of sit down and kind of figure out, you know, based on their total usage, what that looks like. But, you know, I think probably putting in here firmer language about this is where they buy their water from is probably what I'm more concerned with, and trying to figure out, you know, sometimes people balk more about, well, that minimum, you know, what if this happens, you know, we'll kind of be, I think we're more just saying, well, we don't want you buying some water from us and some from over here and trying to figure, you know, it's more like, you know, you're exclusively buying your water from us is kind of what I'm more interested in. But
Because we're making the investments, so that.
correct. So, yeah. So
It'll be a better product for them too.
Yeah.
Invoice.
Well, I think the big sell too is more stable, you know, especially on the financial end. You know, they were getting shot a lot of different prices all over the board. So I think they were getting a little bit tired of that part of it potentially, but we're trying to be a little bit more of a stable situation for them. So.
Has there been any concern? I haven't really heard of any concerns coming from one. Obviously, 3 has been on a different contract outside of us. Does one have any concerns right now?
No, they know it's coming. They're pretty small organization. You know, they're a small district, and they're pretty stable and just kind of the same guys.
They're kind of laid back crew.
Yeah, Ken Benedict's one of the guys on there that helped it. Yeah, so they're pretty laid back and just been the same guys for probably the last 20 or 30 years. You know, so they know this has been coming, and they know it's probably going to maybe look a little different than what they had, but. You know, I know for a fact they have maybe 3 as well, have done quite a bit of increase just on their own rates just for infrastructure upgrades. So they're pretty set to be able to absorb. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive either direction they went going forward, but they're going to be able to really kind of eat that internally with the rate structure, because a lot of that was going to their capital improvement fund, and they've done a lot of that, so they really don't need to sock away as much as they were before. So that's the from what I understand. understand. That's kind of
Are they connected now?
I don't believe they are yet. We had to do a little bit of digging on our own to get up to them because we thought it was an 8-inch main there and it was only like a 6-inch. So we upgraded it, but they may be, but they still have to do a lot of work on their system before they're ready for us. So again, this has been something we've been.
Where do we hook in?
Yeah,
Three,
so-
where is that at?
Yeah, so if you kind of up there by the EMS, EMT building, you know,
Yeah,
the,
right.
all that thing going on there, that's exactly where. So their big pump station's about a mile north of town, if you ever kind of paid attention, you know, that like old semi trailer sitting out there kind of on the corner, just north of Eilert's property there. So that's kind of where their first, so they basically just kind of changed the direction of their system. So that's where they hook on to us up back. We got some big, we had 8 inches, it just stops just past the pizza hut. So we kind of had to grab it and keep, you know, the 6 inch, we're just replacing it, upsizing that. And so they run that mile down to connect to us. So,
Do our towers give us enough pressure to get water up to them?
yes, yep. And then they use pumps, Matt. So they have pump stations and they have their own water storage tanks that kind of help with their pressure in their system. So yeah, really they're not looking for water pressure for like the houses in their system necessarily. So we got easily enough push to just push it to their pumping stations. So then that's where they create their pressure. If that makes sense. So yeah. So that's why, you know, we probably could have got by with just leaving that 6 inch there, that last bit, but Stuart was a little nervous and we were too, you know, just like, oh, let's just make it 8 inch. So there's no pinch point there. And we know there's enough just normal pressure to push water up to that first station for them to then pressurize their system with it. So, yeah, this is a really good thing. And again, for the newer guys on here, this is a good thing from an economic cost spread situation. So it helps. There's a lot more water being, I mean, they're not quite our size as far as water purchase, but they're right there. I mean, they're pretty big. So it's going to be a good.
How are they compared to one? Is it gonna be double or?
Yeah, they are, based on projection, they are almost 4 times bigger. One's pretty small.
That's why we have.
I want to say that 2 and 3 were pretty split even, and 2 and 3 together were about our size as a city. But I think that included 1. So, you know, I would say 3, let's see here, I should know that. Andy, do you know off the top of your head? Okay, 143 minus 22, so they're not much smaller than us.
Well, no,
Or no?
they got,
Am I thinking that right?
no, that was just the
How
total
far south
shares
is
Oh,
for
no.
us.
Is
That
it
was-
put on past your father?
I don't know.
Okay, I was thinking-
They have like.
Farmers like one, right?
I knew these numbers way better like 6 months ago, but I can't remember our total usage right now. And is it 900,000 a day?
No, not a day, per year.
The key is we were making sure a plant was designed to handle their increase
Correct.
into our system.
Yeah, because we're our capacity, our max capacity would be 1.8 million gallons per day, and on a high day we'll both be at about 1 million. It'd be 1.5 million. It'll max out our current plant right now as it sits. But we figure we can skate by, you know, for those year or two. But it'll be, you know, on a peak day for us, we're like 900,000 gallons, and I want to say they were 300,000 or 400,000 or something like that, maybe 500. But yeah, it's 90 million gallons a year. Yeah, so whatever that is. 300 some thousand on average, 200 something thousand on average a day, and we're about 500 some thousand. It's starting to flood back for me. 90 million.
Don't talk about flood.
Yeah, so they average about 246,000 gallons a day, and yeah, we're somewhere up on the 500, 600,000 gallons a day average. So yeah, they're about half our size. So, but that's a good deal.
All right, okay. Next item is the animal control ordinance update review.
I'll let Katie talk.
Okay, we're gonna roll through this.
Yes.
So much fun. So I get into these projects and I decide rather than piecemeal it together, that I'm just gonna redo the whole thing. So a lot of these, it's a lot of pages here, but a lot of it is not changes. But So I'm just gonna roll through what are the changes. So what you see there in red, none of that has changed. I just moved it in the code because it's the administration section, talks about who's in charge and enforcement. So I thought that'd be better at the front of the code rather than where it was originally. So then we get into penalties, which is what kind of a big thing that we wanted to talk about. So these were categorized before, so I kind of left them categorized based on kind of the severity of the offense. But the big thing that we wanted to do was tier the fines. So those kind of what I would call more minor offenses, which honestly we don't see very many of these. They're in 2104. You know, removing a dead animal, for example, $50 first offense, and it goes up to 100, 175. But honestly, we don't see many of those. It's really into C, which is where we get into most of our offenses, which is your animal care requirements, if they don't clean up their pens, dogs out in the cold, things like that, if they have too many dogs in the house, or running at large, which is our big one, or animal nuisance. Those are our two, dogs running at large and animal nuisance, which is animal getting in your trash, animal chases you while you're on a walk, animal bites another animal, all those types of things. Those are our most common. So those fines, what I've done is tier them $75 for a first offense, and then these add court costs on all this. So it's really $175, and then it goes to $225, and then it goes to $300, up to a maximum of $500. Whereas right now when they come in, it's $25, $50, $75. So hopefully that'll be some deterrent if we increase those.
Katie, what is the penalty if your dog bites your neighbor and your neighbor?
Relief dollars.
All
So,
right,
yeah.
we lost
Oh,
everything.
there they are again.
We paused for a second here.
Terry and I were just talking amongst ourselves.
Okay, so we're gonna resume our discussion here about the dogs. So the question is, if a
So
dog
if
bites.
you get bit, so if you're walking down the street and you get bit, yes, call animal control if it's during the day, call the non-emergency line for an officer if it's in the evening. And per our code, that dog's owner, and really even you, that you have a duty to report a bite no matter what. It really should be the owner, but if you can't find the owner, then you should report it, because then we need to do the quarantine and all that, go through that procedure.
Yeah, if you report an animal at the vet, you don't know who the owner is, but the say code enforcement has an idea who it might be, and they say, no, it's not mine. Is it property of the town, or is it?
I would say that Doug has a pretty good idea of whose is who. I mean, he's pretty familiar, because more than likely that dog's been out before and he's seen it, or he's got a report. But yeah, there's a chance that dog's brand new to town, that he may not, and that person may deny it, but typically we don't see that. They want the dog back. Yeah. So those are kind of some proposed fines for that. Does that look okay?
I thought they looked like they would have some more fight to them.
Team to, yeah.
Yeah. And then the most serious, which we don't have much of this, thank goodness, is your dog fighting and your animal cruelty as well. Honestly, most of those are going to go to Mark Noah for prosecution in district court. So I've added that the number of prior offenses referenced refers to the owner and not to the animal. So hopefully that'll help clear up some issues where people get rid of a dog that they had 2 or 3 offenses with.
Bye.
You're back.
I'm having trouble hearing anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what to do here. Can you just adjourn and just deal with it later? It's not gonna change anything.
Yeah.
If we got too much to do and just keep dying.
Is it?
So over it.
Is it?
There's just not enough juice down here, so there's dying again.
You want to adjourn the meeting?
All right, let's do it.
Would we be able to at least just finish this topic?
No.
No, okay.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So I guess we don't have to.
We're already adjourned, so.
I'm sorry, guys.
Hey, it happens.
Don't worry about it.
Maybe next time we can eat it.
We'll just remember it on your review.
Yeah.